Welcome everyone to the Hold for Hold Pro Wrestling channel. This is a true welcome to the channel as I am kind of starting us off on a blank slate. I know I have like 30 videos already uploaded on this channel, but I never have done a just sit down, introduce myself video, and that's what this is going to be. This is also going to cover some changes to the Hold for Hold Pro Wrestling channel. And I think that these changes are for the best, but we can explain that in a little bit. My name is Jaime, if I haven't already mentioned it, and I host this show. This is a one-man crew here, and I have had so much fun doing it. I know I've been gone for a minute, and I could explain that. When I started the Hold for Hold Pro Wrestling podcast, I was in grad school, and I was about a month away from finishing out. So I decided, why not add more stress on myself and start Hold for Hold? And so I did. But after school, I got a job a lot faster than I thought I would. And so I had to get adjusted to that. And every day, I kid you not, every day I was at work, I would think about this. I would think about my return to the channel and what I wanted to do and all the ideas that I never got to really sit down and talk about or list out, and really hone these ideas, because before I was on such a limited schedule and the only thing I thought I had time for was to watch wrestling and then talk about that wrestling on a hold for hold level, so a very minute and a micro level. But now I've decided that I'm gonna try and space things out a little bit and really dive into more of a broader stroke and talk about the greater stories going on in pro wrestling, whether that be news, whether that be kayfabe, whatever's going on that I feel like is important for a wrestling fan to know. That's what I want to do, because when I took my hiatus from this channel, I realized that talking about every match on a move for move basis wasn't the most exciting listen, to say the least, and I think it almost did a disservice to the matches, because you're less motivated to go watch them if you haven't, and I want these wrestlers to get the credit they deserve because they're doing amazing stuff right now. So yeah, and just to talk about myself for a minute, I don't want to take up too much time, but especially, this is why I do a podcast, so you don't have to see me. But yeah, I've been a pro wrestling fan all my life. I grew up in the Ruthless Aggression era, so I'm like a big pro wrestling fan. I'm not the biggest dramatic storytelling. I love just like good old fashioned wrestling. But yeah, I grew up a wrestling fan. I was a kid when I first saw like Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero, so like these characters have lived on with me for forever. But I did have to take a break from like 2010 2015 because I moved around a lot as a kid, and I moved to some towns where no one talked about wrestling. When I was like in my first couple towns, it was still cool, and I had friends who watched, and so we'd come to school next day so excited to talk about whatever had happened on Raw, or come home from the weekend or they'd come over and watch Friday Night Smackdown, because it's not a school night, so you can have a sleepover. So yeah, like I used to have a very fun relationship with wrestling in that way. And then once I moved to a couple towns that it just wasn't the norm, people didn't talk about wrestling, I didn't know anyone that liked wrestling, and so I kind of fell off myself, and opted in for Jersey Shore, because I remember that was really big at the time. But so I fell off, and I came back around 2015, so I missed about like 5 years of pro wrestling, and it was kind of difficult to dive back in because the whole landscape had changed from what I remembered, and the people that I had watched, they were pretty much gone. And so all these new faces, like the Shield, for example, were really popping in 2015, right? I had no clue who the Shield was. I had no clue what NXT was. And so I had to do some research on my own, and it wasn't always reliable. Like I didn't always know where to start with characters and things like that. And and then on top of that, I still didn't have friends who liked wrestling. And so it was kind of just like this thing that I was pursuing almost out of spite. Like, I'm gonna figure this out. Like, I'm gonna watch the first Shield match or whatever. But yeah, so the whole goal of making Hold for Hold is for everyone to be able to enjoy pro wrestling and really just hone out their thoughts, really have someone to talk to about it. Because at the end of the day, like, having an interest is fun, but if there's no one to feed into that, it does lose a little bit of its luster, right? I mean, talking to your buddies about your favorite pro wrestling match is very special. You know, there's something that just clicks when you do it. And that's what I want to do. I want to make pro wrestling accessible. I want to make it easy to understand, easy to follow, and, you know, cut through all the crap and get to the major good stuff. But yeah, and I mean, I'm open to talking about the bad things of pro wrestling, because bad pro wrestling is fun too, man. You ever watch like a Psycho Sid skit from WCW? They're always hilariously bad, but they're so fun to watch. But yeah, that's my name. That's me. That's why I am here. And so now we can kind of move on past the personal stuff. I hope that made sense. But I hope that made sense. But now we're going to shift gears and actually talk about the channel itself, because it is going to undergo some changes, as you can tell by these rebranded graphics and everything. I've had a lot of time to think about this stuff, and I think the YouTube for now is just going to be actual videos that are a bit shorter in length, probably capping out at like 25 minutes when possible. I don't want to do full podcasts that are videos, because I just don't feel like I have the setup to do it the way I really want to have myself filmed and upload it and look good and sound right. As you can see, I'm holding my microphone because I have one mic. You know, this is a real Bush League operation here. But yeah, YouTube video is going to be uploaded every Friday at noon. This is the first one. Next week, we'll start off on my starter pack series. This is something that I had worked on a little bit before I left, but now I'm coming back in full force with this. Essentially, my starter pack series will act as pro wrestling playlists. So we can deep dive about a certain wrestler or a certain promotion or a certain wrestling style. Whatever it is, I'll give you a good formula to follow. That way you can feel introduced to this thing. If you never, one example is Brock Lesnar. If you've never watched a Brock Lesnar match or you don't understand his character, I give you 5-6 matches that you have your own little route that you can go on and watch the matches you want to watch, but there's a starting point, so that way you understand who Brock Lesnar is. So yeah, that's going to be next week. I kind of just spoiled it, but it's going to be about Brock Lesnar, and I'm really looking forward to talking about this. So yeah, the starter pack series, and then we're going to do some other stuff, just some fun topic videos. Might touch on NXT 2.0, might talk about the streak, might talk about Roman, whatever I feel like deserves more time than I can give it on the podcast. And that's a perfect segue, because Hold for Hold still has a podcast. You can listen to that podcast anywhere you find podcasts. I have the link in this bio. Surely I do, right? I have to. And you can just follow that, and it has all the major outlets, and you can listen up. I have 2 new episodes about the past 2 weeks, starting from WrestleMania and then this past week. And this past week was a big episode. I was able to include a discussion topic and then everything else. Normally I just promise to cover WWE and AEW, but this past week we discussed NXT 2.0 and NXT UK, and while they are under the WWE umbrella, they aren't necessarily the major stuff, but I enjoy watching pretty much everything. And then the New Japan Cup had wrapped up, and so I kind of have to catch up on some things on that end. But yeah, I'm just open to talking about wrestling in general. I would love to hear y'all's thoughts about all that stuff, and anything you want me to cover, because I do watch a lot. But yeah, so yeah, just a quick recap. YouTube channel, still alive. We're here. And it's going to be Fridays at noon. You'll get a new video from me. Meanwhile, Tuesday night, I record during NXT 2.0. So Tuesday night, but really Wednesday morning, you can expect a Holds for Hold podcast episode about the entire week leading up to that point. So it's about Monday Night Raw to Monday Night Raw, unless there's a pay-per-view. But yeah, so that's what we're covering on the podcast. I'm really excited to be back, you guys. And if you've made it this far, please drop a like, subscribe to the channel, hit that little notification bell. I'm sure I don't have to tell you to do this, but it's really nice if you guys can do that for me. And then, yeah, if you guys like listening to podcasts, please click the link in the description and, find the podcast wherever you like to listen to them. And if you like the podcast, please leave it a rating. That really helps out the show. So, yeah, you guys, have a good day. I'm happy to meet you. And, you'll be hearing from me soon. So, bye, guys.